Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Skeindeer, and of course the Ravelry group Skeindeer Knits. And I just want to open this podcast by saying welcome and welcome back if you're a returning viewer, and welcome if this is your first ever visit. I am very excited to say that this very little podcast has reached 8,000 subscribers in what seems like no time at all. I started doing this in September 2016, and I think up until March 2017 it was very small, and I was excited enough to have, I don't know, I was still under 1,000 subscribers. And then ever since, I want to say, Edinburgh Yarn Festival last year, it just skyrocketed. Especially since August, it's really taken off, and I'm still like processing that. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for wanting to stick around and watch this little bit of knitty nonsense. This episode is going to be a tad bit different from what they usually are. It's my podcast has become a bit show and tell, but this episode I don't have that many projects to show. I've been unusually monogamous in my knitting, and I also have been, you know, under a pile of exams to mark, and it's just been stuff going on, and I have a lot of admin to catch up with. So I hope you will bear with me. We're going to talk about that together. It's a bit more of a, yeah, more of a conversational episode, more so than the ones that revolve around what I make and what I've finished and what I've bought and that kind of thing, which I'm actually looking forward to. I just thought I'd give you a heads up. So yeah, the other thing I just wanted to say up front is thank you so much for the birthday wishes. That meant a lot, and especially thank you to those of you who actually got me things, whether they were patterns on Ravelry or things that have come in my mail or are coming in my mail soon. So thank you so much. That is very I want to say unusual for me. It really is very appreciated. That's like completely mind-blowing to me, and I'm just, yeah, very grateful and humble, and thank you. And I also want to apologize because I had issues with getting my last episode, the 2 videos, what's the last episode, up. The reason being that I took them down. I didn't technically put them down, I marked them as private. This is not a very fun topic. I'm sorry I have to start off with this, but hopefully you'll bear with me again. YouTube have been a huge pain when it comes to advertisements. And you may be thinking, Ellie, are you doing this for the ad revenue? Are you going to be one of those YouTubers that are, you know, just trying to get ad revenue from your videos? Is that what you're doing this? No. Really, the amount of ad revenue I get from these videos is a rough estimate. It's probably enough to pay my rent after half a year, right? It's not a huge sum of money, but it is the sum of money that makes me able to justify putting so much time into doing this. And not just speaking for myself here, but other podcasters as well. It's usually their ad revenue that allows them to go to yarn festivals and actually meet and greet the people that are watching and supporting the podcast. So it really is full circle and comes back to the people that are, you know, part of this whole experience. And the issue with YouTube being difficult with ad revenue is that they automatically, based on some arbitrary algorithm, mark videos as unsuitable for advertisements. And of course, if my videos turn out to be unsuitable for advertisements, I can't really do much about that. However, whenever I request that a person reviews my episodes to see, are they really violating these terms? Are they really unsuitable? Every time, no exception, they get approved. They are suitable for advertisements. It's just that this algorithm is mistakenly marking my videos as unsuitable. So the issue then is that the number of days that it takes YouTube to go through my video and see, okay, it's actually not unsuitable, those are the days that I get the most views. And so effectively I miss out on the ad revenue. So it's just impractical. Is what I'm coming down to. I'm not like going, yeah, bad YouTube, because obviously I get to use the platform and that's awesome. So I had to take the video down for a few days until YouTube came around and said, yeah, okay, fine, you have a video that is suitable for ad revenue. I hope I won't have to do that again. I hope I don't have to do that with this episode. I'd rather them come out in time for me to talk to you guys. And the thing is that I can't just keep them private until it's approved, because they will not review the video until you reach 1,000 views. So the first 1,000 people get to watch the video and then the other viewers have to wait, which is so unfair, and I don't want it to be that way, and I'm sorry that I had to just mark it as private. I'm gonna try to like not include so many words that may be part of the algorithm in my video descriptions, like maybe knitting needle is an issue because, you know, the last word might be associated with illegal things. I don't know. Clearly the people that made the algorithms are not knitters. Muggles, eh? But hey, I thought now we can talk about some knitting things again, because yeah, I just wanted to explain that. I guess if there's anything that you guys want to do about it, you can complain to YouTube and just say this is becoming an issue. That would help. That's the only thing I can think of. I'm having a hard time getting in touch with YouTube about this in the first place. So if any of you know a way to do that, then well, yeah. But yeah, knitting. I'm wearing the fleece cardigan. I'm not sure for how long I can wear this, because even though this is the thinnest piece of knitwear I have, it's warm. I get very warm when I record, and this lamp that I have here is very warm as well. It produces a lot of heat. So, but for the time being, I'm showing off the fleece cardigan designed by Pinny Goody, also known as the Needle Lady, and yeah, I really love it and wear it to death. So the other thing I wanted to cover up front is of course my knit-alongs. I have currently 2 knit-alongs going and 1 starting. So the one starting is going to be a very, very tiny one, and you can read all about it on Ravelry. I call it the Break the Rules KAL, and I don't expect a huge number to join in on this, but I hope so. I hope I will be surprised, because it's very open. You can enter with any project, any whip. You don't have to finish. There won't be an FO thread. It's really open, and it's for the sake of the experience. So what I want this KAL to be specifically, not just breaking any wool, but choosing the wrong yarn weight, going really beyond the weight required for the pattern, and maybe actually not modifying so much. Obviously do the modifications that you need, but maybe see if you can use a yarn at the gauge specified in the patterns. Even maybe the gauge is recommended for sport weight yarn, but you chose light fingering, and that worked out because you used a wool that is very flexible. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for. Say with this cardigan, for instance, that's a good example. It does recommend yarn like phenol garn and PT2 and Usk, that kind of thing, which is technically, I guess, sport weight, but I went with whole super soft, which is also recommended yarn, which is light fingering. That shouldn't work, but it does, because woolen spun rustic sticky yarn has that flexibility. But obviously you can find that you may have other experiences in this knit along, so that's entirely up to you. But I thought we could have this knitting experience in my Ravelry group, so head over there and read more about it, because it starts on the 1st of February, which may be after this episode goes up, because today is the 31st of January. So yeah. So the knit alongs that I am doing currently is the Marius KAL, and if you don't know about the Marius, I have a pillow, a cushion in that pattern, and I also have a sweater under here somewhere. This is where I put all my sweaters as I wear them. So yeah, it is a sweater pattern, or a bundle of sweater patterns, and quite frankly 2 books and several magazines full of patterns based on that chart. So we're doing adult size sweaters. I foresee that the KAL is going to end at the end of March. Hope to see lots of Mariuses at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. That'll be really fun. So yeah, it's been a good KAL. I'm sorry I haven't actually gotten around to cast on my very own Marius. I'm not eligible for prizes anyway, so I might as well cast it on whenever. But I was hoping to like be a leading inspiration for these Mariuses, but obviously since I already have, what is it, 2 Marius sweaters and 1 cardigan, I guess I'm off the hook. Really, I hope so. And the other KAL that I am hosting is the year-long knit-along, which is a colourwork mitten knit-along that runs for the entirety of 2018, where your goal is to knit 6 pairs of colourwork mittens, with some allowances that are more specified in the group, but just to give you a general idea of what I'm looking for. It's so much fun. I am enjoying this knit along so much, and the activity in my group is so inspiring, and just seeing people taking the mittens by the hordes and are really just going for it. I am so happy that I decided to start this KAL, because I was a bit unsure at the time, because I was like, well, there's already the box of socks and I don't want to infringe upon that, and there are a bunch of other annual mitten knit-alongs that I don't want to, I guess, take anything from either. But I'm very excited to announce that those knit-alongs are happening again this year, so you can double dip if those KALs allow it, which I'm pretty sure they do. So I thought I'd mention those knit-alongs. One of them was actually also running last year, so that was the Basket of Mittens by A Woolen Homestead, which is a super nice and just pleasant podcast to watch, so you should definitely check that out. But yeah, she and this Instagrammer, I can't remember the name of, I was just checking this, oh my god, Ellie, put that here. They are running the Basket of Mitten KAL. This is a way more open knit-along than mine, so you don't have to do color work. I don't think there's a specified number, there's not a specified size, it literally is very, very open. So if you are unsure about whether it's worth going for my knit-along, because it has these criteria of color work and being adult sized and being a certain number of mittens, i.e. 6, it won't be like in vain, because there's this other KAL here that you could enter regardless. So, and I tried to do that last year, and I did. In the beginning I was really good and always putting in my entries, and in the end I completely failed because I was so busy at the end of the year, as you have seen here. But it's a really nice knit-along, so definitely check that out. And the other knit-along that I'm super excited to know that is running again this year is the Mitten Knit-along by NH Knits, the podcast, the audio podcast. I think it's just called the NH Knits Mitten KAL. So this is running on their Ravelry group, and it's run by Claire of the NH Knits podcast. And Claire is also the lady behind the Woolly Thistle yarn shop. And the exciting thing about the Woolly Thistle yarn shop is you can see some Rauma yarn there very soon, I think. I've heard rumors, I've not actually had this confirmed, but I don't see why this will be false, so I'm just gonna say it, and if that's not true, well, then you can just be like, there should be Rauma yarn there. I think there's gonna be Rauma yarn there, and that's so exciting. But for this knit-along, you can enter with your colorwork mittens there as well. It is a lot shorter term knit-along. I think it runs for over 6 weeks from the end of February. I am entering with my mittens there, like there's a list of mitten designers that are supporting this knit-along, so you can definitely find me there, and I am just very excited for this to start. But now, the moment we've all been waiting for, announcing the winners of the Julekveld Mystery Knit-along and the Selbu Club. I have put this off for a long time because I was waiting for all sorts of things to come in the mail, and I have purchased some prizes myself, and I finally sat down and drawn the winners. So here we go. Now the first prize is this project bag that I bought at a craft fair in Vancouver. I just saw this and I thought it was beautiful. It's this hand-printed linen bag. It's by Rain Goose, made in Canada. It's got a very smooth fabric on the inside. I think it's made to be for toiletries, but it could totally be for knitting. So I bought that. I did initially buy it for myself, but I realized I need more prizes for my KAL, and I haven't used this as much as I thought because I have about 30 project bags. So this is gonna go out to a lucky winner. And the yarn in here is by Always Etc, and this is perfect for my club mittens. It's plenty enough, it's the perfect yarn for it. It's a Shetland DK yarn, so this is 2 times 50 grams of 240 meters each, non-superwash, grown in the Netherlands. And yeah, it's by Always Etc, who is one of my favorite indie dyers. She has the best bases easily, and these colors, I think you can see why they're right up my alley, so I'm so happy to give a pair of these away. And the winner is, this is hilarious because the winner drawn is post number 34, which is Jillthemenace, which is Jill, who I met in Vancouver. So full circle with this bag. Jill, just get in touch with me and I will send you this. And moreover, I am heading to Norway very shortly, for reasons I will get back to in a bit. If you want me to get you anything from there, just a couple of things, small, few 50-gram skates, you know, that kind of thing, anything you've coveted from Norway, I will be sure to add that in here as well. So just get in touch with me. Your mittens were wonderful, so I just want to like pimp up this little giveaway prize. So yes, congratulations. And because I don't have more prizes, but I have a bunch of wonderful entries, I thought I would have some runner-up winners, and the runner-up winners can get in touch with me to get any patterns of their choice in my shop. So they can get one pattern from my shop, but any pattern that they would like. And so I'm just going to put those winners on screen right now. Make sure you read through it if you are in the draw, because one of them might be you. And then you just get in touch with me on Ravelry, send me a private message and say, can I get that pattern from you? And I will gift it to you. How about that? So it has to be one of my patterns in my shop because financial reasons, and hopefully you want them because you already knit one pattern of mine. So yeah, congratulations everyone, and thank you all so much for your enthusiasm and participation. I had so much fun with that KAL, and it's probably one of my most positive experiences in relation to my designs in this podcast, and I think might make this an annual thing, if not even more frequent, because the mystery mitten knit along, it's just a blast. I love it. So yeah, and also thank you so much to those of you who have purchased the kits from Wild and Woolly here in London, because those kits just sold like fresh bread, as we say in Norway. That's like yeah, that's been incredible, so thank you so much. And so now we get to the winners of the Selbu Mitten Club, and I had to laugh out loud when I drew the first winner. I'm just gonna cover the prize first, or should I? No, I'm just gonna say the winner first, because I had to add a screenshot of the post that was drawn, otherwise you wouldn't believe me. But the winner is AmyFlorence of the Stranded Dye Works yarn and the Stranded podcast. I know, random number generator. So Amy, you win this amazing, if I may say so myself, whale bag. This is also one of those things I initially bought for myself, but I'm like, we need more prizes and I have too many project bags, so this thing is going out to you, and I hope you like it as much as I do, because it's full of whales, and what's inside is perhaps, no, definitely more amazing, because it's hand-dyed yarn by Arctic Yarns. So this is the last bits of yarn that Amelia of the Arctic podcast and the Arctic Yarns gave me to give away. I still have my sweater quantity, which I'm gonna knit up into something amazing, but yes, this was something that Amelia gave to me to give away, and I am so happy that I know it's going to someone who has full-on enthusiasm for this kind of yarn as of late. But I thought I'd cover what this yarn is. This is the undyed base, and this is the dyed base, and this is dyed Ask by Hillesborg, which is by far one of my favorite yarns. It's definitely like in my top 5, you know. It's a shared #1 really with a few yarns, and yeah, it's 100% pure Norwegian wool, 100 grams, 315 meters each, and just the tonalness of this color, I mean, oh god, you can do some really amazing color work stuff with this. So yeah, congratulations Amy, and I'm so glad that the random number generator chose you, because that saves me some postage. So there you go, a nice little whale project bag for you there. And the next prize is a similar bag, but with a bunny with glasses, and this is for post number 308, which is hhelga. And you get not only this amazing bunny bag, which it has the same story as the whale bag, but the yarn inside is amazing. And I'm kind of ashamed that I haven't given this yarn the appropriate amount of spotlight that it deserves, because it's been a while since I was given this to give away, and I completely forgot to mention it. It was literally laid out with all the other stuff I was going to cover, and it just didn't happen, and I never got around to it because of all my travels and all the content I've had to share. So this is by Twisted Threads hand-dyed yarn, and it's beautiful and a fantastic base. So let me just show off this and give them full just endorsement and any sort of audience that they, you know, deserve, because I feel so bad for not having done that before, and it's beautiful. The whole aesthetic of the label, everything gorgeous, but the yarn, let's just talk about this yarn. Oh god, why am I giving this away? I want this. So the base is strong sock, and it's made of, wait for this, 75% Colorado grown Corriedale and Tunis wool, 25% nylon, and this is the Sierra Sunset colorway, and this is 100 grams with 330 yards. This is a non-superwash sock base that has amazing variegation, if that's a word. I have no idea how she did this, but it's incredible. So I'm just look at that. It's so amazingly fluorescent and gorgeous, and you're so lucky to win this, hhelga. So please do get in touch with me on Ravelry, get me your address so I can send this to you along with the bunny bag. So yeah, congratulations, and thank you for participating in my mitten KAL. I have another 2 prizes. They're very crinkly. These were given to me by Paige the framer, who has the fiber and frame, or frame and fiber shop in New Jersey, which I've been to. So this is coming from her shop. Paige has also started her own podcast, and she's very prolific on Instagram. So yeah, she is also an awesome person who gave me this stuff to give away. So the first winner for this is post number 219, which is LiindaE, and she gets this bag. So this bag consists of 2 skeins of Cascade 220 sport weight, which you could totally use for the club mittens if you want to make them more, or if you want to take part in it next year, because there will definitely be mittens where this yarn is appropriate. And the bag in here, it's beautiful and excellent piece of handcraft. Truly, I'm a nutcase for giving this away, but that's part of KALs, I guess. So this bag has been sewn by Alison Williams, who is Daisy Lane Design on Instagram, and it has a bit of a T thingy as well, so congratulations. So LiindaE, if you can message me on Ravelry to let me know your address, this will be coming your way. Lastly, there is post number 138, which is Flamegurl, and you get this other bag, which is amazing, and it may not look that big, but actually it's been folded over. It's huge. It is enormous and amazing, and has more Cascade 220 sport weight yarn, which you can totally use for the club mittens. So yeah, again by Alison Williams. This is her business card. It's a bit of glare, but hopefully you can see that. Yes, and then there's the frame and fiber logo. And so yeah, congratulations, you get this bag. So there we go. Same thing applies to everyone. Message me with your addresses, unless of course you won a pattern, then you need to get in touch with me about the pattern that you won. And I have some runner-ups for this KAL as well, because there were just so many entries. I feel horrible for not making everyone winners, so I just wanted to name as many as possible. So just with the Julekveld Mitten KAL, so I ran the random number generator to choose another 5 winners for me, and those winners will be put on screen. Have a look at the screen now if any of those people are you, and message me on Ravelry and tell me which pattern from my shop you would like, and I will gift it to you. So yeah, congratulations. So before we get into my knits of the week, which is going to be a very brief section, I thought I would recommend you some videos that are loosely related to this podcast. And I'm getting hair in my face again, oh dear. So the first video that I should think you'd want to see is my Christy Glass interview. So the release of this video might be a bit confusing, because I was just in New York obviously meeting Christy Glass, but this interview is actually from November, and you may remember that in November I was proper sick. I should have been in bed, but instead I walked around in New York and, among other things, got interviewed by Christy Glass, and that was such an amazing experience and so much fun. I wish I could have been a bit more me, because I wasn't really feeling well, and I was like, I'm just gonna wing it. It's like, do I can try talk, and my voice is nearly gone. But I hope you enjoyed the interview if you haven't seen it already. Obviously I hope you enjoyed it if you did see it, and that my voice doesn't bother you too much, because it really wasn't quite there. But yeah, I really liked it. I feel like I got to express a lot of my thing. You know, I don't know if you get interviewed a lot. That hasn't really happened to me either, but the few occasions where it happened, as I've grown up and just happened to be grabbed by some journalist for whatever reason, I've never really felt like I get to say what I wanted to say. But in this case, I really felt like I did, and I got to convey the things that I find important, and I'm glad it didn't come across as me being anti anything, because sometimes that's something I worry about a great deal, that people think I am against superwash yarn, or that I'm against merino, that I'm against, I don't know, garter and socks or whatever. Like, I'm not, and you will see that in my coming works in progress, so I just don't want to have that reputation when I'm talking highly about the yarn I like. Doesn't mean I'm against the other yarns, if that makes sense. I just kind of want to broaden people's yarn horizons. Now, the other video that I wanted you to check out, I really want you to check out, is Diana Wallace's video of Norwegian yarn. So Diana, who is a very amazing designer, she's been published by, you know, PomPom and Quince & Co and the likes. She started her YouTube channel a while ago. I think I have mentioned that, but if I haven't, she did. And she, while I was in New York, uploaded this video about Norwegian yarn, and she's just like, I'm just gonna cover the basics and just be like, well, it's very in-depth and interesting and has so many good bits and bobs of details and interesting facts, and it's very clearly laid out. It's kind of the video that I wish I had made, but luckily someone came around and made an even better one. So yeah, definitely check that out. There will be a link to that below. Obviously you could just search Diana Wallace Norwegian yarn, I guess. She's got KathyInIowa Knits, I think, on YouTube, and it's amazing. I have watched that video probably 3 times at least, because it's just good stuff. So if you are interested in Norwegian wool and yarn and the tradition and industry behind it and why it's important to endorse it and support it, check it out. Okay, I'm done. So I have a finished object, and I literally, in the break between the clips of this video, ran to the bathroom to grab them from the sink, squeeze out the water and put them across the blocker so I can show you while they're blocking. And those are my Skeindeer mittens. So I had to finish these today because today is the 31st of January, which is the last day of the National Mitten Knitting Month, and I decided to make this pair of mittens for that occasion. I know, just one pair of mittens. What am I doing? And this is the Skeindeer mittens by Vertices, who is a Norwegian designer of colorwork goodness. And so I really love these mittens. They were very quick to knit actually. It's just that I put up the thumbs until this morning. So yeah, these are the thumbs, and just like thumbs. So yeah, I just put them across my blockers. And I guess you may be new to this podcast and you don't know how I do my blockers. I don't really believe in buying mitten blockers because I like to have blockers that suit my hands. So what I do is I cut them out in foam board. So I trace them around the mittens. I make them a lot larger than the mittens, and I also make sure that they fit around my hand, so I can show you like they fit my hand pretty well. Like they give some positive ease, they go around my wrist, and there's some room up here as well, so it's just like a pretty good fit overall. A bit awkward to show you this way, but hopefully you get the idea. You want a bit of wriggle room for your fingers. You may not think so, but actually you don't want to feel constricted with your fingers, even if you can't use them in the mitten. It's a thing. Maybe that's just me. Which is why I believe in just making your own blockers of foam board. And the reason why is because I find that pretty much all mitten blockers I have come across have been too small. They are basically the size of my hand rather than bigger, so they don't really get stretched. They just hold the mitten, which is not really what I'm looking for. Having said that though, Patricia, who is P410 on Instagram and has the knittography vlog here on YouTube, she's just made her own wooden mitten blockers, and they come in multiple sizes, and that is so exciting. Plus they're beautiful and Selbu Mitten inspired, and I want them, and I might just buy them. But yeah, that's amazing. And she's got the equivalent for socks as well, and they're homemade, handmade. They're beautiful. But yeah, sticking to my foam blockers for the time being anyway. And the mittens, I have made them in Rauma garn, which is, as you know, one of my favorite yarns, highly comparable to Ask that I just showed you, hand dyed by Arctic Yarns. This is the yarn I had left, so could probably make another pair of mittens of this in the reverse colors, quite frankly. Yeah, it's just a 2-ply rustic yarn. Got 175 meters per 50 gram. Suggested gauge is 26 stitches, but you could vary that. These mittens just so happen to be 26 stitches in gauge, but I like to knit them on 24 actually. You could do them tighter for mittens. I tend to do 32 stitch gauge. I know that's very tight, but for mittens you often want that, although I found it such a positive experience to try a looser gauge with mittens. That's why they were so quick, that and having a very memorizable chart. But yeah, I just like how you can vary the gauge with these types of yarn, which is exactly the point of the Break the Rules KAL. That and whatever else you may come up with, of course. So yeah, this yarn you've probably seen on lots of podcasts lately, because I got so many of them to buy this yarn at the Vogue Knitting live show. Yeah, no regrets. I would love to enable people to get this yarn whenever I can, because it's awesome. So I think that's time for me to put these mittens down and stop talking about them. I love them. I recommend them. They are, however, only in Norwegian, but Venkurual, she does have quite a few patterns translated into English, such as the Winterland mittens, which are beautiful. But there are other patterns there as well. And of course, you could kindly ask her to translate if you think it's worthwhile. But regardless, they are charted, and by now I'm sure lots of you already know how to follow mitten charts on their own, because my goodness, I've seen so much growth in colour work and mitten knitting skill and knowledge whilst I've had this podcast. And I hope I don't sound like motherly and condescending when I say that. I'm literally just floored by the development that I'm observing. I'd never dreamt that this big mitten movement would have happened, because I was just like, oh yeah, people are so into their socks and they say they're quick projects and like quick gratification, and I'm like, but that's what mittens are for me. Why don't people get this? People will never get this. And now it's like people are on the mitten train, and I love that in a way, because I mean, I don't know about you, but I rarely need to wear mittens here in London. It's just never so cold that I need to have anything on my hands. I mainly wear my fingerless Yggdrasil mitts. So the main reason I love making mitts, well, I do need them in Norway for sure, and they're great gifts the few times I give them away. I just like the artisticness of them. I have this canvas here where I can draw anything. I can make a picture here. I can have a geometric pattern such as this. I can do anything. I mean, you can say the same thing about socks as well, but you obviously need to fit that with the heel gusset, which arguably you could say for the thumb gusset as well. But I just like, I can paint with yarn, with colours, with shapes, and kind of stay within the frames of, you know, the stitches and the gauge and the floats and all of that stuff, which, by the way, I always knit 5 stitches maximum before I weave in the float. So if you don't know, you catch the float. Some people, when they start colour work, get very nervous about the floats, you know, don't want them to be too long because then everything will be too loose. Which, guys, the one problem I've ever come across with beginner colourwork knitters is that the floats are too tight. It's never been the issue that they've been too loose. And if you use this kind of yarn, that's hardly an issue, because it's just going to feel in anyway. But obviously you don't want them too loose either. I'm just saying, of the two, I'd have too loose rather than too tight. Now, the other thing that they get hung up with is, well, when the floats are long, they're going to catch on the fingers and it's going to be horrible. I'm just like, well, you can have them quite long. I like to have them span over 5 stitches to the max. So if I have 6 stitches, I will knit 3, catch that yarn across the other yarn I'm knitting with, just like twirl them around just once. Make sure it just gets woven in on the other side of that yarn, if that makes sense. You can just see it on your work. And knit the other 3. Obviously, if that's the same case on the next row, then I would probably knit 2, weave in the yarn, and knit 4, because you don't want them to be in the same place on 2 consecutive rows. That's just my rule of thumb. Some people like to say you can go across 1 inch instead of 5 stitches, and then weave in the float, or catch the float, as they say. That's up to you. Just thought that would be worth mentioning. Now, during this week, I have been unusually monogamous in my knitting. So I want to show you what I've been mainly knitting on the entire week. There have been 2 other projects I have touched upon, and of course I finished the thumbs on these mittens this morning. But aside from that, I have pretty much only been working on my Vertices Unite. And you know, last time I showed you I was working on the main bit. That's the back side. This is the main bit, the first section, if you will, which is the largest section of the entire shawl. And then I started knitting the second section, which is also striped, it's just more subtly. Plus I'm knitting with noodle yarn, because this is the yarn that I had frogged from my fade shawl that I didn't really execute very well. And so once this is blocked, it's going to look a lot nicer. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not looking very nice right now, but it will even out. So this is striped kind of yellow gold and orange gold. we're hoping that's going to show when blocking. But I like the subtlety of it. I was aware of that before I did it, because I had seen how they faded together with the fade. And I kind of wanted that effect. And now you can see how big this beast is. I mean, this is huge. And now we're on to section 3, which has taken me a very long time. Yeah, it goes on and on and on until we finally get to section 4, which I finished because that was a very small and quick one where I'm only using the orange gold. And now I'm on to section 5? Hang on, let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm on to section 5 now, where I'm striping the yellow gold with this beige speckled gold that I used in the first section here with the brown. And then the last piece is just going to be brown. So let me just take like a big step back here and give you an idea of the sheer size of this thing, which is hilarious because my issue with my fade was that it was too big, because I was knitting at too loose gauge than the pattern recommended. And now I'm knitting another huge shawl. At least it's got a tighter gauge, so I reckon that will make it more wearable. Plus it's a lot more symmetrical, so I would probably wear it more and find it easier to arrange on me. So it will pretty much wear like this, which isn't too bad. No? And I could like wear it this way. Yeah. So I'm really excited about this, and I love these colors, and I bet you're curious what those colors are if you don't already know. This shawl is 100% La Bien-Aimée single ply merino, which is not my favorite base because it's really only good for shawls. Thus why I'm doing a shawl, because I get so this is the base that takes to dye the best. I've never seen any yarn look as nice as single ply merino does when it's been hand dyed with tonals and speckles, and it's just, yeah. So you can't really not buy them, and then once you have them you have to do Vertices Unite, which is a shawl by Stephen West from his book Best Knits, Best Knits, the first one, not the one with garments that he's now published. And yeah, just like do a Stephen West pose. It's not my forte. But yeah, I reckon this piece is going to be fairly quick as well. And just to give you an idea of the shape, because I'm sure it's quite hard for you to see right now when it's so big and still on various cables and needles, I did a sample shawl a bunch of months ago, but I just wanted to see how the colors played out. Eventually I didn't go for those colors at all, but I made this little thing. Isn't that cute? So, you know, the big section with the brown and the beige gold speckled yarn, that's the big piece here. So just to give you this section here, okay, that's here. And this section here is actually the same in my shawl. So that will be this bit. As for the big square that has a color that's only being used in this square, is where I used my crimson red. Which, oh my god, this color is everything. I'm going to do my best not to just get lots of that color when I'm going to Edinburgh Yarn Festival, because I organized my stash this weekend. Oh my god, what am I doing? Anyway, let's not talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. And this section is the smaller section, which is this bit that I finished last night, which was fairly quick to do. It has just the golden orange, whereas obviously here I used the golden yellow. There we are. So that was a change I did as well. Now I am working on this last piece here that you see I striped the orange with the red, but instead I am now striping the yellow with the beigey yellow speckle that isn't used in this swatch. And the last bit I have left is just this thing which is in this Hedgehog Fibers yarn that I eventually destashed. So that's that. So I am basically up to here with this shawl that's grown from this end up to here. Pretty good going, and hey, maybe I might be done next week. But given that I have to travel so much and that I have organized my works in progress as well as my stash, I don't know. And the last thing that you need to do with this stash, aside from your blocking and weaving and ends and that stuff, is an I-cord edge around the entire beast. Gotta love your I-cord. Just, yeah, imagine all the I-cording. It's gonna be fun. Yeah, fun. So the reason why I have put in so much work into this huge thing is because garter knitting, this thing is just garter knitting. Everything is garter, whether it's striped or single color, garter, garter, garter. And turns out that is very compatible with marking, which is what I've been doing this week. So that's the reason why I've been so monogamous in my knitting, and why there isn't really that many projects to talk about. But I do have 2 other projects as well. I'm gonna start with the simplest one, and the other one is gonna have a bit of a story to it that may make some of you a bit sad, but hopefully not too much. So yeah, I'll take this simple, easy, shallow project first. In here, this bag that I got from Jacqueline when I visited her, that's Jacqueline of the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast, and I had finished this sock by the last episode. So this is in Felice and Patterns Croy. Patterns Croy being in the contrast color, and the color of the Felice yarn is Witch's Brew. And I'm now working up the other sock, and I'm just about ready to make some increased stitches for the heel. So what I do is very much inspired by the New Depths heel by Becky Sorensen of the Stringing It Together podcast. I've just kind of taken on my own version of it, where I make one lefts and make one rights instead, and I make sure that I have basically more stitches for the heel, so that the heel will have more rows and it just becomes a bigger heel. Something I have taken from my colorwork socks, because my colorwork socks have far more stitches than these socks, and those heels tend to fit me so much better than vanilla socks, and I figured if I just get the same stitch count, that should amount to the same. So that's essentially what I'm doing. And if you're curious about more details there, I highly suggest both checking out my colorwork socks and Becky Sorensen's New Depths heel, because that is as much as I am willing to say about paid for patterns. And yes, so I don't really have much else to tell you about this sock. It's not very exciting, it's a vanilla sock, but it's fun that I have gotten into vanilla socks. I'm even wearing my first ones, also in Felice. They're a bit, I thought they were too small, but now they're not, which is something I was aware would happen, but still, I have added another 4 stitches and a looser gauge to these, so they're probably gonna be too big in the end. But I have done the correct length for a change, because these socks, they're not really the right length. Like this heel comes down here, which is not good. So I just need to, I think, let me know what you think about this if you are a sock width. I think make tight socks but not make them too short. I have been taught the opposite for a long time, that they should be stretched on lengthwise, and now I'm starting to change my opinions there. So it's a work in progress. So yeah, those socks have just been a thing I worked on when I've been sitting on the bus and waiting in queues and what have you. Now on to my last work in progress, but beforehand I just want to tell you something that you may already have seen on Instagram, but basically my nan passed away on Friday, on the 26th of January. And first of all, I just wanted to thank you all so much for your condolences on that post. I am just very grateful for that, and for having your kind of thoughts with me. I was completely overwhelmed. Sure, I thought, you know, there'd be the usual 10 to 20 people who would send their best wishes to me and my family, but it was more than 500 people, which I can't even. You guys are amazing. Those of you who are watching me here and those of you who are following me on Instagram, I'm lost for words. So I want to say, first of all, this is not my grandmother who was admitted to hospital at the beginning of December. She's alive and well, and she was just sent home after having been in a nursing home for a long time. However, my nan, who just passed away, who I was always called Farmor because she's my dad's mom, my other grandmother I call Mormor because she's my mom's mom, and Farmor, she has now passed away after having been in a nursing home for years, because she basically couldn't really remember anything. She didn't remember people. She practically only remembered the last 30 seconds. She was very good at connecting the dots. You know, if she wakes up in a nursing home, she knows that I am in a nursing home because I am old. She knows who she is. She has got vague memories of the past, but if you come in, you could be her daughter or a nurse and she won't really know. But she's been like this for a very long time. Even a decade ago, she mistook me for a 4-year-old, or a 4-year-old for me, I should say. So in a way, I lost her a long time ago, and it's been a slow process, and I am okay with her passing. So while I am super appreciative for your condolences, there's no need to be sorry for me. I accept that at some point people will just no longer go on living, and for my nan it was definitely her time. Fine has lived a long life from the year of 1923 until this year, which is amazing, and I have no idea how she's done it, because there's been lots of times when we thought she was done and she just keeps going, because my nan is just made of stronger stuff than most of us. So I'm okay with her passing. Sure, it made me sad and I will miss her, and I had my cry on the day that she passed, but I'm not like, why would she take, you know, I'm just like, it's okay. I'm okay with my nan no longer living in a state where she can't really see well or hear anything or remember anything. That's not a life, and my nan has lived a life where she's left so many people behind her, which is incredible. And I mean, I just got her, like, it's a thing that they put in the newspaper in Norway. I don't know if this is a thing elsewhere, where they basically announce that someone has passed away. It comes with some words from the people that were near the people that passed, and some information about when they were born and when they died and the people they left behind. And the people left, there are 26 names written. 26 names, that's a lot of people. That is just like immediate family, her children, their spouses, her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. And you know, and my nan, she's lived a very difficult life, so in that regard I am happy that she got to have some years in a nursing home where she could just feel a bit more at peace and well taken care of. Now, I'd hardly want my nan's life to seem like it was a tragedy, but I don't think it would be right to just not remember the things that she had to deal with and the stuff that she got through, because that is amazing when I think about it. Like, my nan, she grew up in the 20s downtown where I'm from, in an area called Bakklandet, which is a lovely street of all houses. I've shown you actually multiple times in the podcast, and it's usually a place now where students live because it's fairly cheap, old accommodation that's close to the city. But back then it was a place for really poor working class people. Like, numerous families would live very cramped up together in just a few rooms. My nan's told me stories about this, and it's incredible how people lived in the sanitary conditions and just how crowded the whole thing was. And my nan grew up there, and she's got lots of fond memories of that street, and she's told me lots about it. But it wasn't always easy, just like the norms of back then, you know. But more than that, she witnessed a lot of really brutal stuff. Like, her brother was hit by a cab, and she witnessed this, and he got very severe brain injuries that basically made it impossible for my nan's family to look after him. And so they had to put him into a home out in the countryside of Melhus, where he later passed away at the age of 18 in the early 40s during the occupation. So that must have been very hard for my nan, like, when she was just a girl, to see this happen. And yeah, and this weird thing is that she told me this story when she was in nursing home, and I was just like, no, Knut, that was your husband. I don't think anyone died in a car crash, which, you know, he didn't die in the car crash, but I checked this story with relatives, and turns out, yes, she had a brother named Knut. Which, yeah, that was just something that she remembered, even though she'd forgotten most other things, which is incredible. She also, like, her mother-in-law was in a fire. Someone set fire to their kitchen, and she was then sent to hospital where my nan worked as a cleaner, and that was something she had to witness. And my her mother-in-law, my great-grandmother, she passed away from the injuries later on. So just like stuff my nan had to deal with. Her dad was alcoholic and actually married and divorced my great-grandmother twice. The second time they were encouraged to get married again because my grandfather, so their son-in-law, insisted, and that didn't really work out, obviously. And unfortunately my grandfather also struggled with alcohol, and so that's been a lot for my nan to deal with. Before she married my grandfather also, she had a boyfriend who was German. This was during the occupation, and they had a child. You know, they were in love. He was not, you know, he was just a guy that she fell in love with. And yeah, it's a very tragic story where they could not be together, and he eventually left the country. And I don't know if there were any repercussions for my nan and for my uncle, but I know that that was common in Norway after the war, that these young women and their children were punished publicly for these things. I hope none of that happened to my nan, but I don't know. So I'm just thinking, yeah, just lots of things that my nan had to endure. And I mean, she survived her child, you know, my dad. That was really hard on her. Like, even as a child myself, I could see that that was very difficult for her. And later when my grandfather passed away in the 90s, I mean, she just kept on living and her legs just kept on walking, and she just, yeah, made a very strong stuff, my nan. So after all the stuff that she had to deal with, just glad that she felt well taken care of in the nursing home, and that she just passed away quietly, and that she got lots of grandchildren and children and great-grandchildren, which in the end meant the world to her. That was just the thing that got her the most happy. And you know what? My very first margki sweater was the sweater that she'd knit for my dad. So she's had some influence in the knitting as well. My nan was a very prolific sock knitter. She could still make socks even when she had pretty much lost half her vision and memory. She would just make socks without thinking. Like, she was incredible. But most of all, she was very, very kind and patient, and just like, she would just put up with so much and still just be generous and giving, and just one of those people that, you know, when you visit them, she will just bring out all the cakes and cookies she have, and then just jump off her chair and be like, forgot the chocolates and the biscuits and the like crisps, and like, she would just like, it's never good enough what she could give to others. She always just wanted to give, and in a way it's just like a memory of the past, like, demands that women were to live for others. And my nan definitely did that. She took care of people all the time. She took care of her parents and her husband and us grandchildren, and of course the children. That was my nan in a nutshell. So in the end we took care of her. So I'm not sad really that she's passed. I'm sad that I will going to miss her, but in a way I have missed her for a long time. And so I am going home to Norway in a bit to go to her funeral and see my family, and just, yeah, I think that's going to be nice. I've been to a lot of different funerals in my life, and some of them have been various kinds of premature deaths that have been quite sad. But if you go to a funeral of someone who lived to such an age and lived a whole life, they're more of a celebration of their lives than something very sad. So I expect this is going to be a positive experience. So guys, please don't feel sorry for me. I'm okay, and my nan lived a long life. She would have turned 95 if she lived to September. Like, that's incredible. So here's to my nan. To Brit Anne, my farmor. So the reason why I'm talking about my Nan in my works in progress is because I decided to make her a little something. Obviously it's not something I'll ever be able to give to her, but it's something I will dedicate to her, because I received some yarn from Saskia of Ovis etc. the day my Nan passed away. And I looked at the colors and I'm like, I feel like I see my Nan in them somehow, and I could make a design and just have it be in her honor, and I think that would be very special. So the design I've come up with now looks like this. I'll just put it on. I am going to alter this a lot, but this is the basic foundation of this. I want the color work to go further down here. It's probably another repeat of these flowers that you see here. So that further down. I'm going to see how much yarn I have left. I am struggling a bit with the thumb because I wasn't planning on making in a kind of sideways thumb gusset, a sore thumb if you will. I thought it was going to be my palm Norwegian gusset, but that made the fit here a bit wonky. So I think I'm going to try to tweak the pattern a bit so that we can have more stitches around and work the thumb around, and it will be fine. So in the end, I am going to work up some mustard yarn for the rib up here and down here. Hope that this is enough for both mitts. I think it will be, but I'm just going to make sure that the meterage is plenty. It's a bit funny actually how I just got so inspired by this yarn, because Saskia just gave me 3 sets of yarn, so 3 bundles, kits if you will. 1 for me to keep and 2 for me to give away. And I've now obviously given away 1 kit and the other one will be for later occasions. But I think she planned for me to keep the 1 kit that I have yet to give away and give away this one. But I was like, but I can see this design, and I asked her if I was like, do you want me to make a design of it instead? And she's like, yeah, fine, you choose whatever you want. But it was meant to be an Yggdrasil kit, and I'm like, of course. I didn't even recognize. I knew these were the colors that she'd made for her own Yggdrasil mitts. So these kits will basically both be compatible for these mitts and these. So I guess you can choose whichever you want to make. I just can't believe I didn't see that, but there you go. So yeah, some mitts in honor for my Nan. I thought that was a nice thing to do. But this is really the last thing I'm allowed to cast on in a long time, because I just went through all my works in progress and they are quite plentiful. So I've made 3 piles. One that is unfortunately a non-priority pile of whips that I'm just gonna knit whenever I don't have much time pressure. They are great works in progress. I have no plans of frogging any of them. They're nothing I need to finish anytime soon for a variety of reasons. I also have a pile of things I wish were priority knits because I love knitting on them, but they're not things I need to finish ASAP. And then there is a 3rd pile of things that I really should finish soon. So we could just run through that pile. We don't have time to run through everything, but that's at least one thing that we could have a bit of a look at. So these are the priority whips. The box isn't important, it's just something I picked up from Argos, but in this box is all the priorities that I have right now. Obviously my Vertices Unite is going to be knitted on while I'm working because those things are very compatible. My Nan's mitts I think I will prioritize as well, because it feels right for those to come out fairly soon, just because it's a thing I'm feeling right now. It feels right in a way. So yeah, but the other whips, of course, my Felici socks that I just showed you. And this I can't show you, but it's going to be a thing that comes out in not too long. Just need to write other patterns and get test knitters, yada yada, but yes. And in here is my Syria cardigan. That is the thing I want to finish for Edinburgh Yarn Festival, because it will be very compatible with the Blacky Yarns KAL. So I could have a cardigan in Blacky Yarn for Edinburgh. Too warm to wear in the actual festival, but hopefully not too warm for Edinburgh. So that lives in my raccoon bag. And yeah, that would just be awesome to have. Very unrealistic, but we're going for it. And then what else is there? I would love to have another sock of my Transcendent socks, because they're coming out soon, and it's ridiculous that I keep publishing patterns where I just finish 1 mitten and 1 sock. They've been test knitted as pairs, so they work. It's just like, come on Ellie, just knit them already. So yeah, I would like to get the other sock on the needles. And I really just want to make the tips of these socks again. This was an FO and I still count it as such because I did bind it off. I just need to make them a bit longer. This shouldn't take me long, which is why it's in the priority pile. in here, which is the bag that me and Kristin collaborated on, I have the Rauma cape. Another thing I'd love to have for Edinburgh because it's amazing. Is that reason enough? Yeah? No? Well, I'm going for it. And in here, see if I remember now, I've got this little cardigan. I was making a baby cardigan for a baby that was born in October or November. And those things, they grow fast. So I hope to finish this maybe when I go to Norway so I can give it to them there because they live there. Just need some sleeves, you know, it's fine. Just gonna have to do it. It's made in a variety of soft lamb's wool and super soft yarns, so I don't know what's taking me so long with that thing. And lastly, and this thing I just put here because it's ridiculous that I haven't finished it already, because there was a while I thought I'd finish it in May. And yes, you're right, it is my Miss Rachel. Because honestly, what is taking me so long with this thing? And I am going to the Kate Davies talk on the Saturday at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and wouldn't it be amazing to have this? Yeah, this is how far I've gotten. I really only need the bottom rib and the button bands and then streak it. It's nothing. Honestly, Ali, just knit it already. So, yeah, just gotta get through it. I do have a bunch of other Kate Davies garments, so it's not that, you know, I have 2 owl sweaters and I have the epistrophe cardigan. It would just be really nice to have this because it's one of my favorite designs by hers. I think the play of colors in there, it's amazing, and I'd be so proud of it because I managed to select the colors out of the range of Fine Garn and PD2. So that is my priority whip, so we hope to see more of these in the future. As for the other projects, unfortunately not a priority right now. Obviously I will be knitting a bit on my Michelle Wong Inox sweater just because Katie is doing a Wong along and that I need to do. But aside from that, I might have to make some priorities. I mean, when I knit monogamously, look how much I get done. I should do that more. So hopefully no more cast-ons in a while, yeah? So now let's get to some acquisitions. I was hoping that this order I done for issue 7 of PomPom would have arrived by today, but I haven't gotten a visit from the postman yet, so I guess not. But I have purchased 2 other issues of PomPom plus a subscription. So one is the latest issue of PomPom, and this is a bit of a funny story because every time PomPom comes out with an issue, I look at it and I'm like, I don't like this one. I only like one pattern. I don't think I'll get it. And as the weeks go by and the months and we're approaching the next issue of PomPom, I look at it again and I'm like, actually I quite like this. That's nice, that's nice, that's nice. Ooh, look at that, you know. By the way, I was looking at this, which is awesome. So I don't know what's up with me, but clearly I like PomPom, so I have now subscribed to PomPom and we'll see how I feel about that. They're only for a short period of time every time, so yeah, I think that would be interesting. I've never subscribed to a magazine before, so not a knitting magazine anyway. And the other issue of PomPom is this, because I really like this issue. There are some issues of PomPom I just really don't care for, and others that I'm like, oh my days. So, hoping that's... So I'm trying to get the old ones that I feel really speak to me, and this one truly does. I mean, one pattern in particular, I mean, come on. That hat, I've seen it many times and now I can make it. But I don't get to cast anything on, so why am I buying pattern magazines really? Anyway, I've also gotten some lovely items in the mail. I have ordered 3 books. I thought we could look at those now. The first one has a bit of a funny story to it. I went to work the other day. I was leaving off the half of the exams I marked of my supervisors, and I'd also mistakenly ordered my order of knitting books to my office rather than at home. So I went to the dean's office where the administrators are and asked if they could have me get the parcel that hadn't arrived at the pigeonholes shelves. And so we just walk off to the main post office together, and she's like, oh, I haven't seen it for a while. How's the knitting going? So clearly I have a bit of a reputation at work, which is an academic workplace, mind you. And so she's a bit into knitting and sewing as well. She just doesn't really get around to it that much because university work, eh? So we talk about that. I'm like telling her it's actually taken off a bit with my knitting, and I was like, oh, I want to get into sewing as well. And she's like, oh yeah, sewing, and she knows lots about sewing. And she's like, oh yeah, that Sew Over It shop, it used to be here and now it's moved. And it's like, what? So she was fully up to date. And then she told me about Ray Stitch, which I know about. It was just really cool. And then eventually I was like, actually the parcel we're picking up right now is a book of knitting graph paper. And so she's like, but what's wrong with regular graph paper? And I'm like, they're square and knitting stitches are not square. So this entire book looks like this. I usually chart my thingies in Excel, where I have shaped the grid to be like this basically. But it's nice to have it confirmed that I wasn't completely off there. But now I can chart by hand if I so wish to, which is pretty nice. And it was 2. That's the main reason I got it. It didn't cost me much. Then I got this amazing legend of a book, Knitting Without Tears by Elizabeth Zimmerman. Now I have her Knitter's Almanac already, which is the one book that people recommend the most, which I don't really get because that's a pattern book with her conversational style throughout. But this book speaks to me way, way more. You should definitely check out the section in here about yokes, because literally any beginner could work out how to knit a yoke based on that description. With no pattern needed, just follow it. You can design your own yoke sweater. It's not the recipe that I use for my yoke, because this method has its drawbacks. I don't quite agree with the proportion suggested. The sleeves do become a bit loose. The neckline can become quite open, and there are too few points where you increase. Instead of having them equally distributed towards several rows, there are just like 3 rows where you just go many stitches. It didn't make sense, but yeah, that's something that has been refined later on, but this was pretty much a breakthrough at the time, and it's made so simple, and it does work. I'm just saying there are like improvements to this method, but I highly suggest just looking up the Elizabeth Zimmerman yoke percentage system, because you could come up with any yoke there. And this friggin' tome of a book, 750 knitting stitches, the ultimate knit stitch bible, which, yes, it's just knitting stitches, is very, very full, and I wanted it. And since I am a designer now, I guess I need these kinds of books. Plus they're inspiring. So yeah, adding that to my library, which is actually too full to contain any books now. I'm gonna show you, just like that shelf is full, that shelf is full. What am I gonna do about that? Is that right? Anyway, I also got a bit of a very, very, very nice surprise. I know I have more of those very, very nice surprises coming to me, but one that did reach me yesterday was some yarn and some stitch markers. Now these were sent to me by Diana Wallace. I'm just mentioning that for some transparency, given I just recommended her videos. But the stitch markers were sent to me by a viewer who I know. They're in the same region and are like a part of the Espace Tricot shop people, I guess, from what I've heard. But yeah, I haven't asked her if I can mention her, but I wanted to show you what she gave me, because this thing, it's amazing. Okay, can we just get focus on this? Yes. Oh my days, look at that, look at those. I mean, and there's a very nice story behind these that she couldn't possibly have known about, the woman who gave me these. So I saw these stitch markers at Vogue Knitting Live. So they were hung up on a sample in a booth, and I asked them, are you selling these? And they said no, they're just here for decoration. And yeah, I wanted them, but they didn't have them, and now I have them. And yeah, you couldn't possibly have known, but thank you so much. This is great. Really do appreciate it. So, and there's one for each mitten, and I'm one of those awful people that, yes, I use a stitch marker sometimes, but I put them further down in my work because I can't be bothered to slip the marker all the time. So I'll probably use them for that, which makes sense because they have a lobster clasp, so that's lobster clasp. Anyway, Diana included a little something for me as well, and I thought I'd show you that because that got me squealing as well, for sure. Like, this is you know, this yarn dyer, she's amazing. I just can't pronounce her name, so I'm just gonna put here. Yes, I believe she's Montreal based, and so they have two different labels. I'm not sure why. Maybe this is the older label. Guys, this is beautiful stuff. So let me tell you a bit about the base. So these are 50-gram skeins, 56 grams, excuse me, 118 meters each. I believe they are worsted weight, and they're called the Nurtured base, and they consist of Rambouillet, Targhee and Merino. So you know how I feel about these more, I call them American breeds. They're not always American in origin, but they're widely used for wool in America, and we don't get these around here. And just, oh, I love this so much. The feel of these kinds of American yarns is a completely different thing. I love them. You can just like hear how crisp they are. So I'm just like now trying to think of things I could make with them. I have one idea, but I'm not allowed to cast on, so just gonna have to sit and fondle them every so often. I did get a note about where these are made, which I thought was very interesting. Yes, they were made by Green Mountain Spinnery, and I think you learned from my last episode how I feel about Green Mountain Spinnery. If you didn't see that, I love them. They have amazing yarn, and I bought a lot of that when I was at Vogue Knitting Live, and also the last time I was at New York before that. So yeah, Green Mountain Spinnery, consider me a fangirl. So at the very end of this episode, I would like to mention, actually, I have a new website. Now this website is nothing to get too excited about yet. It's really just a skeleton for whatever I may put there in the future. It is a collection of ways to find me and contact me. There will be an about me page where I will write a bit more. Now let's just say TBA or something. It's a nice place to find my patterns if you're on a bit rusty at Ravelry, but it's easier to use Ravelry really, but I just thought I'd put something on the front page. And so I have this contact page, and the contact page is probably the one thing that has a bit of content right now. And that is because I am, to put it plainly, I struggle with the influx of messages I have gotten as of late. Like the past few months, it's just been a lot, and that makes me feel very, very guilty every time I fail to respond promptly or at all, and I feel even more guilty. It just becomes this vicious cycle where if I feel guilty, I become kind of unable to respond, and then I get more messages, I'm unable to respond, and I feel more guilty, and you see the cycle just repeats itself, and it's not good. It's not good for me, and it's not good for the people that get disappointed when I fail to get back to them. Even though I feel like I have a pretty good track record still, I don't want to be in that position where I'm letting people down. So I try to come up with a nice way of organizing this. I could just like have an email and say that's the only way I would respond. That would be very easy, but I don't like emails, and I don't think anyone else does either, because emails are very faceless. I like to get a sense of who's talking to me, which you can obviously on social media, but on email I just see an email. I don't know who this is, you know. So what I have lined up instead is, for any community related aspects, then my Ravelry group is the place to be. I hover over that Ravelry group like a helicopter mom. So your questions will be seen, and I will answer, unless someone else obviously has given just as good of an answer. I engaged in that group, I read everything, it's my baby. And so that's definitely the number one place I recommend, because that's a place you can just chat loosely, you can introduce yourself, and more than that, it has a help desk for any inquiries you may have about Norwegian yarn and patterns and publications. There's lots of useful links in the pinned thread there, and I aim to fill that out more and more. It's really a great initiative, so definitely check out the group. It's not really, it doesn't make any sense to send me introductions in my inbox, because I get a lot of messages and it's just hard for me to be like, okay, how do I write a personalized response to this? Whereas if I read it on my group, it's like, yes, got it, read it. And I don't feel that pressure to reply when I have nothing to say, because I'm just this, yeah, my social skills are a bit so-and-so, let's just say that. But I very much appreciate it, and I would appreciate if it doesn't all come into my various inboxes, because they are a bit overloaded and important stuff gets lost. I hope that doesn't make me sound like a huge yes. As for pattern support, I sometimes get these things on YouTube and Instagram, and I'm sorry guys, that's not the place to do so, because those platforms are very chaotic. I'm just gonna say it straight out there. It's not anyone's fault, it's Instagram's fault. The Instagram messaging system is bad if you get lots of messages, because messages just get lost in a stream, and some important conversations there, whether they're people I know or people I'm working with, they get lost because someone wanted to ask me something about my pattern on Instagram. That's just not the place. So stick to my Ravelry group for that. The main reason I'm saying that is because if someone says, I very often get a message, well, not often because my patterns are fairly understandable, but sometimes people tell me, I don't understand this bit. And I think, well, I don't know any other way of writing it. I wrote it in the way I know how to write it, that's why it's written that way. However, in my group, there are people who have knitted those patterns and look at them with different eyes than my own. And so that group is phenomenal, because you can meet other people who have knitted the same pattern, plus me, obviously. I'm not trying to refrain from any responsibility from people who have bought my patterns. I am in the group. So I just really recommend that group. It's going to be so much more helpful for you. You will get replies so much faster. If it just so happens that you feel like you're revealing so much of the pattern you couldn't possibly share it in the group, given it's paid for, then yeah, by all means message me on Ravelry. But generally the group is the place to be there. It's going to help you so much more. So I think that's the best for you and for me. As for if you have any shop issues, because it does unfortunately happen, very rarely but sometimes, that patterns on Ravelry aren't automatically sent to buyers. It's very often to do with the settings people have chosen themselves for their PayPals. It's pretty much never to do with me, and I have no influence. Me and every other designer on Ravelry, even Stephen West, no influence on how Ravelry sells their patterns, you know. So if you have issues with Ravelry as a shop, let them know. The only thing I can influence on Ravelry is making and ending promotions, so you know, discount codes and that kind of thing. I can't apply them after the fact that you bought them, but I can check if they work or not. I can check if my pattern is available to buy or not. But if it comes down to the actual download, where your file is to be found, etc., talk to Ravelry. They should really have this stuff sorted, because the only thing I can do is talk to Ravelry via you, and I don't have the capacity. So I think that's going to be the best thing for you, again, to get the fastest help possible instead of going through this other person. So hopefully that's understandable. Now lastly, obviously, if you have any specific business related stuff, so I have an email, but I want to discourage use of that for the most part. It's just like sometimes a publishing company will get in touch with me to review a book, or I will be talking to a yarn company for use of yarn, or I will be talking to a yarn festival about being there as a podcast, or things like that. That email is for that kind of thing. It's not for just casual inquiries. It's where I really do my business, so it's there, but use it with care. So I hope that isn't too complicated. The general gist of this is my Ravelry group is really the place to be and the thing to use for getting in touch. And then there are just exceptions to the rule that I just mentioned. I hope that doesn't make things too complicated. What I'm trying to say is that Instagram is a terrible platform for things that you hope to get responses from. I am still super happy for anyone who gets in touch with me on Instagram and comments here on YouTube. I'm talking in terms of things that you want me to reply to. I'm still like trying to get on top of my YouTube comments, so I still aim to reply to those as well, of course. I was just like, I was watching this Bristol Ivy interview the other day, and I by no means compare myself to her in any way. But she was like, oh yeah, I spent 3 days in the week just answering messages. And I totally believe that. Like, Okay, so maybe it's a third of that for me, but still, it's a lot. And so I'm trying to arrange it so that your probability to get a response if you need it becomes higher. That's the goal of this, and make it more manageable for me, especially given how much I travel and how much I have to do with my PhD, and trying to, you know, spend more time on pattern support and less time on things that maybe shouldn't take up my time, I guess. So I hope that made sense, and I think that's all I have to say for this episode. So just to summarize everything, I mean, I wanted to thank you all so much for sticking around, for having over 8,000 subscribers. That is incredible. As ever, you know, the knit-alongs, by all means do join, especially the weird one we're going to be having in February, because that's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, the other knit-alongs that other people are hosting is worth checking out. Those of you who have won patterns or actual physical items, please do get in touch with me. Also strongly encourage you to check out the Christy Glass interview and the Diana Waller video. And also, of course, thank you so much for your well wishes for me and my family given the passing of my nan. I do also want to add, and I don't know how to say this, but my nan is not a religious person and neither am I, and so maybe just keep your religion to you. That would be greatly appreciated, because as far as I'm concerned, I've lost my nan for good, and that is sad and it's hard to deal with, but I'm okay with it, and I don't really need to hear stuff that I or my nan really identify with, and hopefully you understand and you wouldn't want it the other way either, with me going just like with my cynicism. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next episode. Maybe I'll get to record one from Norway when I'm there, and I will see you next time. Bye!